Hello and welcome back to Everything Boats with Captain Frank Lanier, where we discuss boats and boating, from maintenance and repairs to seamanship and safety, as well as everything in between. This podcast is a companion to my YouTube channel of the same name, so if you like and find it useful, be sure to subscribe and please check out my YouTube channel as well, where you'll find hundreds of informative videos on pretty much every boating topic imaginable. So today's podcast is based on a segment of my YouTube channel called Ask Captain Frank. And this is where I take questions from my YouTube channel viewers, customers of my marine survey business, or just people randomly calling me up trying to get me to answer shit for free. So today's topic, bad boat broker advice. I had a guy call me up, a potential client, wanting to get a boat survey that he's in the process of buying. And we talked and discussed a little bit about the boat he was looking at and the broker and the broker's advice. And it just didn't seem like good advice. I'll let you decide. You can be the judge if this broker shafted this new buyer or not. So the guy called me up and we're talking. He said, yeah, I've got a boat that's under contract and I want to have a survey done. So during the course of the conversation, we talked about some stuff and it didn't quite add up, the advice that the broker had given him. Now, before I get all kinds of hate mail and death threats from brokers, surveyors and brokers, we interact with a lot with each other, right? I mean, it's like plaids and stripes. We interact a lot with these boat purchases and stuff. Brokers are just like surveyors, and they're different as far as some of them are good and some of them are not so good. Some surveyors, they're not particularly is good. I'll admit it. Some of them are not. And brokers are the same way. Some of them are good. The majority of them are good. They try to help out the guy buying the boat. But some of them are like the waterborne equivalent of a used car salesman. I mean, there's no arguing that. Some of them are better than others, and some of them are, downright kind of slimy. So, not getting into the, the broker surveyor conversation or conflicts, that we may have, I will point out a couple of things. One, that the only people that are interested really in the sale going through, the only people that have, some type of vested interest are going to be the person selling it and the broker, because the person selling it wants it to be sold, wants his boat to be sold. The broker, of course, wants it to be sold because he gets commission on it. If it's not sold, then he doesn't make any money. Of all of them, the surveyor, that's me, we represent the boat itself. In other words, the guy hires us to serve, gal hires us to do the survey, and we do the survey and we present the facts as we see them. This is this, that's that. Irrelevant whether the boat sells or not, you get the basic information and the facts as we see it. So with all that being said, as I'm going through the conversation with this potential client, he mentions the fact that, I've already approached a couple of surveyors and they refuse to work with this particular broker. And I'm like, okay, I know about 3 of them in my area that I can probably name him in 1 or 2 guesses. And yes, I did. And they said, well, I don't take that approach. In other words, these other surveyors, they don't want to deal with him because, most of the boats he gets, it's kind of like the elephant graveyard, where the boats go to die or the elephants go to die. The boats that this particular broker typically represents are on their last legs. Either they're in such condition or poor condition that other brokers won't handle them, or, they're just, the crude way of saying it, he's kind of a turd polisher, because some of these boats are pieces of crap and he tries to polish them up and put a spin on them and get rid of them. Again, this is not every broker, but it certainly is some, that I can point out a couple of them. So as we're going through the conversation, he says, yeah, the broker, he said, well, I said, I'd like to have a survey done on this boat. And the broker says, you don't need a survey of those guys. They just try to get money out of you and they don't really do anything and stuff. Okay. So he talked this new buyer into, they made a little sales contract. The buyer had noticed there was some possible issues with the engine. So he wrote a handwritten note, that, okay, you can have the engine surveyed by a mechanic and see if there's any problems with it. But it didn't have the typical verbiage that a normal, sales contract would have. And what is that? Well, the sales contract, if you're buying a boat and a broker or asks you to put down earnest money, good faith money, typically it's a percentage of the boat price, He wants you to put this money down to show that you're serious before we do anything else. So if you're giving money to the broker or whoever that's selling it, and they want you to give money, earnest money, good faith money, whatever you want to call it, you have a contract signed up. You never give anybody any money without having some kind of contract written up. And what you specifically want in this sales contract is everything is contingent on the findings of a marine survey. Why do you have that in there? Because that's your fire escape. If everything goes south and the surveyor finds things that are, bad with the boat that you weren't aware of, wet decks, rotten coring, bad engines, whatever, then you can take the survey to the broker and say, look, these are things that I was not aware of when I made the offer on this boat. We found this, this, and this, and I have decided not to proceed with the survey or not to proceed with the purchase. So I would like my earnest money back. And then you get it. That's the way it works. Well, when you fail to put in the verbiage that the purchase is contingent on the findings of a marine surveyor, or a marine survey, now you have no protection. And as I was telling this guy, you signed a contract, you give him, $3 or $4 grand, whatever he gave him. If we have a survey, and unless it's specifically with the engine, that you wrote in that handwritten on a cocktail napkin, that, you can have the engine inspected. And if there's any problems, we'll renegotiate. But if you have the survey, you're not going to have the ability to go back and negotiate like you normally would. In a perfect world, you make your offer on the boat, and then you have a survey done. And the survey, we go through it and check everything out. Hopefully there's nothing wrong. But if the surveyor finds any issues, major ones particularly, now you have the opportunity to go back and renegotiate. And again, I did a video a while back on how to renegotiate during the survey, and I'll post a link to that as well. But anyway, so you have that verbiage in there. I found something on the survey I don't like, Mr. Broker, and I decided I'm not going to pursue this purchase. Let me have my deposit money or my earnest money back. And that's the way it typically works. If you have not got this verbiage in your contract, then all bets are off. I mean, I could, or the surveyor could go in there and find some catastrophic stuff, and based specifically on your contract that you have, if you don't have, the verbiage in there that states this is all contingent on the findings of a marine survey, then he has no obligation, really, no legal obligation to give you your earnest money back if you decide you don't want to pursue the purchase. So that's why you have to, take care of yourself. And again, a lot of new boat buyers, they may not, recognize this or may not know it. So that's why one of the reasons why I do this channel, to put the information out there so everybody knows, how things should work in a perfect world. And then you kind of take it from there. So the bottom line was, if I did a survey for this guy, like I said, and we found stuff, he wouldn't be able to, go back and legally, get his earnest money back. He wouldn't, if the broker was an okay guy, yeah, he could probably negotiate and get his money back. But if not, then he has no legal basis really to say, hey, give me my money back. I don't want to proceed with this. It's a contentious topic. Again, when you have an entity, a broker, the only way they make money is if the boat sails. And again, 99% of them are good guys. They're competent. They're just trying to help everybody, get the boat they want and the deal that they want. And that's their job. And that's the good part about them. But again, some of them are not so good, and you got to watch it. This guy, the broker that we're talking about here, I shake his hand. I want to count my fingers when I'm done, because that, you're going to get shafted in some way or fashion if you don't cross all your T's and dot your I's. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. And if so, and you want to buy Captain Frank a cup of coffee, please click on the support link in the text description below. All monies received, not spent on coffee, will go towards making even more awesome podcasts for my channel. And as always, thank you for your support.